Yeah. Where to start with episode 16 of Ranking the Kings? My gosh, there was just so much stuff in this episode, and I don't really know where to start. I guess I could just start from the beginning. I will say before I get into anything, I think Miranjo, at this point, you're going to have to do some miracle working with this writing if you're going to somehow redeem her, because, yeah, I've tossed her. I'm done. I'm done with Miranjo. I don't care how much she's being manipulated by this demon or what. Don't care anymore. That was cold. That was cold-blooded, what she did. And obviously we've had the indication there's more to the story as well. But yeah, I guess that is technically the opening segment, as we have Desher's, saying that he's going to take out Miranjo, make her pay for what she's done. Everybody's like, who the heck is Miranjo? But Bojji, on the other hand, is recalling a memory. Recalling this point in which his mother was shielding him, and she was calling out to Miranjo, please just don't harm Bojji. Like, Bojji, just please let Bojji live. And Miranjo's up here on his dragon just signaling some other group to keep firing arrows, and these gigantic, crazy rotted arrows that are just demolished his mother. And like I said before, just that cold look, like she's gonna go through with what she's doing. It obviously indicates with her look that it's I don't know, it seems like it's indicating there's some aspect there that Miranjo is feeling like she has no choice, this is what she's doing. But still, it was cold. It was way cold. Seeing a mother shielding her child from death and just not accepting anything but what she's doing. And that was like, they're gonna have to do some miracle work on Miranjo if they're gonna make me ever give a crap about her. Again, my assumptions go back to the whole idea that she was betrayed by the people, that she was seen as like a witch, and that they basically blamed her for things and tortured her. That there's apparently this demon that appeared before her as well. This demon that's obviously working in the background appears before her when she gets betrayed by these people. So again, it's kind of indicating that both with Bose, when he died, this demon appeared and obviously seemingly kept his spirit so that they can eventually reincarnate him inside of Daida. Probably the same thing here. It looks like that was the point probably in which Miranjo was killed by this betrayal, and the demon appeared before her then and probably ushered her into this mirror, which I guess indicated the mirror that she was using to signal to them is probably the mirror that she ended up kind of possessing. That would kind of make sense, but yeah, still finally see the point in which his mother dies, and that was not fun at all. Just kind of the pouring of blood down on him, and he's not able to really stop anything. It was just, so rough. Way, way rough. I wasn't really sure exactly how they were going to show how the mother dies. It kind of indicated that, it really didn't indicate to me that anybody was there when she died, but obviously Bojji was there, and she basically sacrificed to protect him. So that sucks. I was hoping there would be a little more to her story than just she died shielding Bojji from a barrage of arrows. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they could do with Miranjo. At this point, like I said, no, I'm not feeling them redeeming her at all. Even though they've done that with several characters, that was rough. That was very rough. But then we jump back to Desher saying, look, even if you guys don't stop me, I'm going to have to face Bose. Bose is going to stop me because he has some sort of like connection that he has established with Miranjo. He's already indicating here that whatever happens, the two of them are kind of connected at the hip for some reason, which we're not going to get into quite yet, apparently, but it seemed like this was going to wrap up without a fight, but unfortunately, he wanted Gigan to be taken back to the underworld, and so he's calling for that, and Bojji's like, nope, ain't happening, I'm going to stop you, and this kind of gets into Gigan's story, which I kind of, again, it seems like everybody's going to get a backstory at this point, but Gigan's story was also a telling of the origins of Desher becoming king, because through Gigan's eyes, we get to see how Desher became a king. So I really like the fact that they kind of interweave the two of them, and that the idea is that Gigan was one of the mercenaries that was hired by Desher in order to take over the throne from his father. They claim that Desher and Desper's father was like a mad king. He did terrible things, and so they had to stop him. And this is what the sucky part, because this is one of those moments where you want to keep rooting for a character, but then you realize knowingly the writer is really establishing this idea that these people did terrible things in order to stop a terrible thing. So it's one of those things where they're not right in doing this, but at the same time, in their mind, they were right because they had to stop this, despite the fact that they obviously were affected by the wrongs that they did in order to achieve that. And that Desher was essentially hiring a bunch of people to take on his father. His father was taking on people that were of the same race as Gigan. They were torturing people of Gigan's race to draw out his father's men, and that's when Gigan basically had enough. There's a child up on this, that's hung up on this thing, and they're torturing him to get them to kind of react, and Gigan just, he lost it. He was done, he started attacking, and that's why he's a criminal. Now, the unfortunate thing that comes from this is seeing Desher's reaction afterwards. Obviously, everything he's doing, it's implying that he's allowing his mercenaries to do what they do because he doesn't want to break morale. In order to defeat his father, he needs to allow these mercenaries to do whatever they want to do just to keep that energy, to keep that bloodthirst that they have. And he feels that if he steps in at any point and says, no, can't do this to this kid, that's wrong, he's going to affect morale and he's going to lose. Again, I don't think at any point it's saying it's right. And Desher's obviously realizes it's not right. He even kills the child that's up on this, that's hung up, and he has a doomness about him. He hated it, but at the same time, he's doing it because he wants to keep his people. Again, not saying it's right, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It is one of those areas of war. It's that disgusting nature of war that both sides do terrible things, and it's obviously implying that Desher was willing to do terrible things to stop future terrible things that his father would do, and it sucks. But one really interesting thing came from this backstory, and that was that Ouken is their brother. I don't think that they ever indicated that before, but yeah, at some point, Desher is talking to Desper and Ouken, technically, and at some point, Desper's like, no, I'm done with this. This was disgusting. This was wrong. You know it's wrong. And Desher's saying, no, I'm doing it because I have to. We have to keep morale up. So obviously that's where we probably had the conflict, which basically led to Desper leaving. Because that was the whole idea, that Desper was, I think it was Desper that was mentioning it. Why Desher's on the throne is because he had the willingness to do what needed to be done, whereas Desper wasn't. Desper chose at this point, this is wrong. All the things you're doing is wrong. I don't want to have anything to do with it, and that's why Desher is king, because he led people. And again, that's a whole argument of like, well, I think you were being a little bit too simple there, Desper. That his willingness to lead was his willingness to get his hands extremely dirty. I can't say that's technically leading, but again, to stop other travesties from happening. So yeah, it was rough. But anyways, in this scene, as after Desper leaves, that was the point in which this guy said, I'm going to make this right. In the wake of all that terrible stuff they're doing, in order to make things right, I'm going to make an order that is going to be a great order. He's basically stated exactly what they said this Ouken did before, thus implying, oh, that was the brother. Ouken is their brother, which was pretty crazy. And I guess that kind of explains why they were so adamant about taking him down. Like, yes, the whole thing with Miranjo was an addition, but the moment he noticed that Ouken was gone, he wanted to go get him. Like, he didn't visit Kingbo's prison. He didn't visit Zoku's prison. He immediately went to Ouken. Ouken was the reason why he set out. And yeah, technically at the very end of it, we see Ouken decides to dislocate his entire body to get out of the ropes. And he doesn't look to Desper, who's right in front of him. He looks back to the castle. So I'm curious if this is going to be a thing where Ouken is... And it seemed like he reacted the moment that Desher left. So it almost seemed like he was keeping himself captive until he sensed that Desher was gone. Because obviously Desher was the one that was able to strike him down. So now that Desher's back over here, he's out of range, I guess. And so immediately then, Ouken responds and gets up. Now the question mark's going to be, what does Ouken want? Again, technically, Desher is dead set on taking and killing Miranjo. So is Ouken, I guess, a casualty to Miranjo in some way? Is the reason why he has this immortality, is it because of Miranjo? Is the reason why Desher hates Miranjo so much is because he basically cursed his brother with immortality and made him go mad? It's a big question mark. But anyway, I'm getting way ahead as he's telling Gigan that he wants him to go back with him. Bojji steps forward to Desher and basically takes him on. It was really funny at this point. I was kind of, again, I think I mentioned this in the last impressions. I kind of assumed that Desher was going to talk to Desper at some point and say, you know, would you train this kid? Sure enough, he does. He's like, look, I'm going to be facing Bojji. I don't want to waste my energy. What'd you teach this kid? He's claiming to be your disciple or your apprentice. What'd you teach him? And then Desper's like, to tell you the truth, you can't beat him. You can't beat Bojji. I was like, whoa, we're going there. We're going that far. We're going that far that he's like, yeah, you can't even beat him. He's going to defeat you. And additionally, I kind of assume this as well, is Desher can't beat Bojji. Again, we were implying that Desher believed that he could beat Bojji because he's now in a child's body. But we've already kind of gotten a sign that despite being in Daida's body, Bosei's done things that he did previously. Like, again, crushing the log into a gem. But he had a plan. Desper has a plan that And this is the cool thing, because Desper immediately accepts this and walks away because he knows that Desper is smart. He knows that Desper will have the plan they need in order to succeed, which that kind of, it's like he doesn't even question it. Desper doesn't even question it. Like, what? I can beat this kid. What are you talking about? What? I could beat Bojji right now. No, he doesn't question it at all. Desper says this. He's like, okay, I'm leaving. But yeah, his plan was that we can get Bojji to defeat Bojji. And it's interesting because it doesn't really imply how he's going to do that. So I'm curious as to what Desper's plan was, is how are you going to get Bojji to fight him? Unless he assumes at the moment that Bojji meets Daida, they're probably going to fight because he's going to hear from Healing or something that that's the case and he's going to defeat him. But there's nothing to indicate that. I don't see Bojji going up there and Daida going, hey, by the way, I'm Bojji, and Bojji just attacks him. There's no reason for that unless Miranjo's presence is going to cause that conflict. Because obviously Miranjo's not going to like Bojji being there, and that conflict's going to happen, and then Daida's going to step in, or Bojji's going to step in. But this is interesting because the other thing he mentions that he's going to allow this to happen, and while basically they're fighting, and everybody's distracted, Miranjo will be unguarded, and they can kill her, and claim the demon's head. So it goes back to the whole thing of like, okay, so if they attack Miranjo, is that demon going to come out kind of like what it did with Bojji, kind of like what happened with Miranjo's original death, and then they can kill him at that point? It's very interesting. It's kind of implying that this demon's kind of just, I don't know, possessing people left and right. It kind of implies that it's the same demon, and it seemed like that was with Bojji, and so now it's with Miranjo. It doesn't really indicate exactly how that whole thing works, but I'm sure we'll get into it. A couple of additional things. I kind of was wondering if Gigan is so wanting to help Bojji because he sees that child that was hanging up that Desper killed in Bojji. Like that strength of in the face of tragedy, he sees Bojji and he sees this child that he failed. It kind of seemed like it implied it. It kind of seemed like that the two ages of the two of them are kind of similar. Also, yes, technically we had Domos apologizing to Bojji. It was a worth attempt. It does suck that they're implying that he technically feels that Hokuro was a part of it. Because Hokuro was with them when Bojji and Domos went on this travel, because he was with them at that time, Bojji assumes Hokuro was a part of it. And Domos apologized, like, I'm sorry that you're seen as being a part of this whole thing. And he's like, let's just work to reclaim his faith. Let's do things to reclaim his faith. And it was funny when Bojji's jumping around and Kage's like, oh, that's amazing. You're so cool now. You can jump up on these walls and stuff. Well, let's do it together. Always love how Kage really kind of just pulls him out of that darkness. He doesn't want him to go in the same darkness that he's been in. So he's constantly trying to push Bojji that everything's all right. Look forward. Keep looking forward. Stop looking back. Don't fall in that darkness. So yeah, it's funny because I almost had there's almost a side of me that after the show ends, even though I'm like totally invested the entire time and I'm loving every bit of it, it's like I said, so much stuff went through, but it still didn't feel like it was rushed. At the same time, you do kind of realize at some point they're doing so much backstory stuff that it feels like the present time is just not moving at all. It just feels like everybody's been standing still for just several episodes. And I know that's not true, but it was really cool. And oh yeah, I forgot the beast came down and attacked Desper, and I love that he just kind of stands there. It's like, just stop. Just let go. Let's go back home kind of thing. It was like he didn't show weakness to them, but at the same time, he didn't show fury to them. He just said, just stop. It was really cool. So anyways, I love this episode. Episode 16 of Ranking Kings. So much stuff. Love it to death. Cannot wait for more. Again, as usual, I'm keep bringing up the fact that we're just technically halfway through this core. It just got so much stuff to go through, I guess. It keeps bringing up questions that I want answers to, but love it to death. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon, I'll throw a tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.